In this video, I will be ranking every single train in British Railway as of version 1.4. Please do note that I will be ranking the DVT and DBSO with their respective coaches. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the Class 47. This locomotive was added in version 1.3.6 and is the only diesel locomotive in the game. The acceleration is relatively slow, but it pairs up well with the Mark II coaches. I also like the unique police livery, although I haven't bought it yet because it costs an entire kidney. Overall, I'd give this train an 8.5 out of 10. Next up, we have the Class 86. This is an electric locomotive from the 60s, and it uses a different acceleration system with the tap changer. While the locomotive is fairly well detailed, this tap changer makes acceleration a fair bit more difficult, making this train not so suitable for regional or even slower semi-fast services, especially with 5 or 6 cars in the consist, because it will be fairly slow at accelerating. Added in version 1.3.3, this is also the only train to have heritage liveries. I'll give this one an 8 out of 10, simply because I'm not a fan of the slow acceleration. The Mark II coaches and DBSO are up next as they pair fairly well with the Class 86. The coaches have decent details on them, and an interesting fact for you, the DBSO is the only DVT in the game to have passenger seating inside it, as the Mark III driving van trailer does not feature any passenger seating. I'll give these sets an 8.5 out of 10. The Class 90 is a freight and passenger locomotive built in the late 80s. The Class 90 was widespread in intercity and semi-fast passenger services on the West Coast Main Line and Great Eastern Main Line. They were used as a stand-in for Class 91s on the ECML as well. The Class 90 was retired from passenger service in 2020 and is now only used by Freightliner. However, the Class 90s in British Railway are still in service, and they are fairly well detailed and have decent acceleration and braking capabilities. Overall, I'll give this train a 9 out of 10. The last of our locomotive-related stock are the Mark III coaches and Mark III driving van trailer. These are also fairly well detailed and come in a variety of liveries, my favourite of which is the weekly Pretendolino livery. The Pretendolino was used by Virgin after the Grey Rig derailment when one of their Pendolino trains got totaled. Aside from that, the coaches look pleasant to sit in. I have heard a strange clicking noise from the DVT several times, and I'm not sure if this is a game bug, a fault on the DVT, or just an intended feature, especially when having two locomotives. The Mark III sets deserve a solid 9 out of 10, just like the Class 90 in my opinion. Finally, we move on to the multiple units, and we start with the Class 142 Pacer, which holds the most liveries at 19. That's a lot of liveries. This bus on rails can often be found used by noobs, and was the only noob train prior to version 1.4. I think the Pacer deserves a 10 out of 10 because it's the Pacer. And if you're wondering why we call it a bus on rails, it's because it's literally a Leyland National Bus on rails. The Class 150 is primarily used by Northern on their local stopping services around the north of England. I really like the modern Northern livery for this train. The Class 150 is also used by TFW and GWR, and it's your second option for a noob train after version 1.4, having the same top speed as the Pacer at 75 miles per hour. The interior is also well detailed, all contributing to a solid 9 out of 10 for this train. The Class 153 is fairly older, having been added in version 1.2. It used to be the only shuttle train until 1.4, and it's also relatively slow and low capacity, having only one coach. Perfect for small shuttle services. The detail inside is a bit lacking, but it's not horrendous, although in my opinion, this train just has a generally tight and cramped feeling to it. I don't know what to say. If you have claustrophobia, do not go on a 153. I'm gonna give this train a 7.5 out of 10. The Class 156 is an older regional staple of the British Railway network, primarily serving in Northern England and Scotland, but also in the Midlands and East Anglia. My favourite livery for this train is still the Regional Railways livery, and this train is relatively well detailed. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The even more iconic cousins of the 156 are the Class 158 and 159, having been built in the same time period and for a similar purpose. They were both added to British Railway in version 1.3.2, and they are way too similar, so I'll be ranking them as 1. With the 159 basically just being the South Western Railway exclusive version of the 158, with slightly more powerful engines and first class. These trains serve a variety of places with ScotRail, Northern, Transport for Wales, EMR, GWR and South Western Railway. The interior detailing is nice, and the liveries are quite varied, although I just dislike the front of these trains, especially 158. Something about it just feels wrong for me. I'll give these Express Sprinters a 9 out of 10. The Turbostar Class 170 and 171 are upon us. Built by Bombardier Transportation, these trains are still used on a variety of services IRL, from cross-country and ScotRail to Transport for Wales and East Midlands Railway. The Class 171 is used exclusively by Southern, and its main distinction is having first class on board. In the game, these trains are fairly well detailed, having been part of BR since its release. The variety of liveries is nice, and I really like the first Transpennine Express livery for these trains. Their brakes are also OP. Overall, I'll give the Turbostars a 9.5 out of 10. The Class 180 Adelante is the most recent and most detailed addition to British Railway, despite its huge price tag. It's the second most expensive train right behind the Class 80 Axpac. This train's diesel engines emit a lot of smoke as it roars down the railway. The interior is very detailed and pleasant, however the bogies did spin in reverse on launch. I can only give this train a 10 out of 10, despite the fact that it breaks down far more often than even Belgrade's buses. The Voyagers come up next with the Class 220 and 221. These trains are most famous for being hellishly overcrowded on cross-country services. The Class 221 has the unique feature of being able to tilt around curves, however it doesn't get any additional speed benefits, it just looks cool. The cross-country variant does not have this feature, as cross-country removed the tilting IRL to reduce maintenance costs, which is really stupid, as you're paying extra to have the tilting and then removing it. The interior is nice and the top speed is in line with the other intercity trains, so that's a 9 out of 10 from me. Our final noob train is the Class 230. This train also has the capability to run shuttle lines, and is the only train in the UK to be fully powered by battery, having entered passenger service in January of this year on the West Ealing to Greenford line for GWR. The TFW and LNWR variants of this train are powered by diesel engines. The interior is minimalistic but pleasant, and the cab is very detailed as usual. That's 9.5 out of 10 from me. The Class 231 is a Stadler Flirt used by TFW, and in my opinion it's just an inferior version of the 756. Think about it, it has the same length, same capacity, but no pantograph and no battery modes, just diesel. It still has a nice interior, great cab, great door sounds, nice engine car sounds, but it literally feels like an inferior 755 or 756. 5 out of 10. Up next is our first electric train with the Class 321 and 322. The Class 321 was primarily in use by Greater Anglia and was retired in April of 2023. It was also used at various points by the London Overground, specifically on the Romford to Upminster Shuttle Line, First Capital Connect, Silver Link, and the Class 332, which is incredibly similar and was in use on Northern until 2020. This train is relatively well detailed, and I really like the Overland livery. The acceleration is questionable on occasion, but it's a fine train. And on an unrelated note, I think that the Greater Anglia livery with red doors is a great basis for what a potential Stepford Metro 321 would have looked like. The Class 350-0 is commonly used around England, and in BR it can operate on both regional and intercity, except for Silverlink and Central trains. They are reserved for regional and semi-fast services. A 12-car variant of this train can be used on intercity. I used to drive this train a lot in LNWR and TPE livery, and it's great. The interior is nice, detailed and relatively pleasant, and the liveries genuinely look nice. The detail in the cab is also decent, and the Dash 1 variant also has third rail running available for whenever the game introduces third rail. I'm gonna give this train another 10 out of 10. Our next train is the Class 745 Flirt. This is the longest multiple unit in the game. It has tremendously insane acceleration and braking and is a perfect fit for the mill bridge line. It has an airport and intercity variant, without and with first class respectively. The interior is incredibly detailed, incredible seating, great livery, and working passenger count displays, 10 out of 10. The 755 is the regional brother to the 745, having been added one update earlier. It has bi-mode capability allowing it to run on any line in the network, and its high acceleration braking made it a versatile unit capable of traveling any line in the game with peak efficiency. The interior was the first in the game to feature live passenger count displays, and it's highly detailed. The door closing sound is immensely satisfying, and it's definitely my favorite train on the network, 10 out of 10. The 756 is the 755's slightly slower Welsh cousin, with a top speed of only 75 miles per hour. It has a battery mode in addition to the diesel and electric mode from the 755, and once again, similar interior, great displays, great doors, but I dislike the lack of yellow. I just prefer the 755 in the livery department. Once again, great detail, but an 8.5 from me due to the lack of color variety and obviously the lower speed limit. The Class 800, 802 and 805 are a set of bi-mode trains serving on LNER, GWR, Transpennine Express, Hull Trains and Avanti West Coast. These trains, better known as the IETs, are fast. They can reach 125 miles an hour with relative ease, however in diesel mode they'll struggle to go past 110 miles per hour, although I don't know why you'd use the diesel at those speeds. The seats IRL are relatively uncomfortable on most operators, however this isn't a factor in BR, so I won't really count it. The 5-car units provide a bit of a capacity problem, however the 9-car units on LNER and GWR solve this issue. These trains are highly detailed and that gives them a 10 out of 10 from me. The Class 801, 803 and 807 are the electric-only part of the ATX family, operated by LNER, Lumo and Avanti West Coast respectively. They have the same upsides and downsides as the rest of the ITs, but without diesel mode. The Class 807 Avero has 7 coaches, which helps mitigate the capacity issues of the 5-car units. Once again, stunning detail, great speeds, questionable seating, still a 10 out of 10 from me. And that's it for this video. As you may have noticed, most of the trains got a really high ranking, and that's because BR's trains are honestly on a different standard to the rest of Roblox's train games. The realism and detail is unparalleled to anything else offered on the platform, and it even rivals some other train games. It's not on the level of Train Sim World yet, but it's about as much as we can get from the Roblox engine. If you like the video, make sure to like, subscribe and join the channel for early access to videos and additional benefits like these lovely people on screen. Oh, and join the Discord. We need to beat a certain Danish penguin in server members. Again, thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.